Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. For today's midweek meta deck, we are playing a mono-red wheel deck by Killabee, who's been developing this deck for quite some time, and it's nice to see them get some really solid success with it by winning a challenge with it. Killabee, if you don't know, is someone who plays a lot of combo decks and innovates a fair chunk, and this is one such innovation. So we've seen like Echo of Eons style decks before, but this is quite a different one to a lot of the other ones out there. So let's get right into it. So we've got a bunch of fast mana. That's pretty much a given. We've got Spirit Guides, Rite of Flames, Lotus Petals, blah, blah. So this is important when you're playing a wheel deck because you want to be able to get a load of stuff out of your hand and then wheel so that when you draw your next 7, you've already got additional resources. So it's not just drawing 7, it's drawing 7, but having deployed your resources. Then we've got 8 shooters. So we've got Gambles and we've got Burning Wish package that we'll talk about in a minute. We've got some defense grids to protect ourselves. We've got win condition in the form of Grapeshot. So we've got the Burning Wishes and the Grapeshots as win conditions. And then we've got some wheels here. Let's just move these ones along as well. So we've got Reforge the Soul. So this is 5 mana. Each player discards a hand, then draws 7 cards. You can miracle it for 2 mana. And we have Echo of Eons, the classic one, where you are usually flashing it back after discarding it with Lion's Eye Diamond. Then we have Runehorn Hellkite. This is a bit of a novel one. So this is 6 mana. Exile it from your graveyard. Each player discards their hand, then draws 7 cards. So this is an uncounterable wheel. Pretty spicy. And then we have this one, which is always one that makes people read it many times over. So this is Wheel of Misfortune. Each player secretly chooses a number 0 or greater. Then all players reveal those numbers simultaneously and determine the highest and lowest numbers. Wheel of Misfortune deals damage equal to the highest number to each player who chose that number. Each player who didn't choose the lowest number discards their hand and draws 7 cards. So you want to bid a higher number than your opponent to get those cards. Now, in order to facilitate this, we are running an Intervention Pact. So this is going to prevent all that damage to us, and we're going to gain life instead. So if we play this, we can bid 20 life if we've resolved an Intervention Pact. So our opponent won't be able to outbid us, so we will definitely get to draw a new grip of cards. And because we gain a load of life as well, it means the next one we draw, we get to do the same thing. And that's kind of how that's going to work. We have a Noxious Revival. This is one that you'd occasionally see many moons ago in some combo decks and kind of went out of favour, but I can see why it's here. So this is 1 for X and green mana to put target card from a graveyard on top of its owner's library. This can be graveyard hate in a pinch. So it does hit your opponent's things. But mainly what we're going to be doing is putting things like this miracle spell on top of our library so that we can then just draw this and miracle, draw 7. That's the most common use that we're going to get from it, I would imagine. We've got some Jeska's Will here, which are kind of like mana, but sometimes they're going to be drawing us cards. It's kind of a little bit flexible depending on how many cards our opponent's got in their hand. And we have a Birgi, which is obviously going to generate a load of mana off of our fast mana to give us more and more mana. And then when we wheel, we just get to keep getting more and more mana. And sometimes we can play the backside of this to try and draw a bunch of cards. We've got a lot of resources, but we haven't got enough to go anywhere. Because we do need to basically find one of these 9 cards to win the game. But we're going to be drawing 7s a lot. Tucked into this mana base, we've got a few soul lands. We've got some Urza Saga. So we can play like an Urza Saga game. It's not really what we want to do, but it doesn't hurt. And this is just a 3-turn wait to find Lion's Eye Diamond. And then we have the sideboard. Now we've got these cards at the bottom, which are ones we're going to be boarding in. So Defense Grid, Haywire Mite, and Wear Tear. So Haywire Mite is something that we can board in. We can find off our Urza Saga to blow up an annoying permanent like a Deafening Silence or whatever. Defense Grid if we just need more defense against counter spells. And then Wear Tear to blow up some pesky permanents, you know, like Deafening Silence, Chalice, that sort of jam. So those are the things we're boarding in. Everything else pretty much is a wish board. So we've got a Personal Tutor, which allows us to search the library and put something on top. So we can put, for example, Reforge the Soul on top. We have Lock and Load, which is draw a card, then draw a card for each other instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn. So when we shoot for this is going to be drawing us loads of cards in theory. We've got an Echo, so we can shoot her with the Burning Wish if we need something to go to the Lion's Eye Diamond. We've got Tendrils, which is probably going to be the most common way we win the game, by Burning Wishing for this, cracking a LED for black, and then Tendrilsing our opponent out. We have Peering to the Abyss, which basically draws half our deck, which is pretty good, and then we can just win from there on. Shattering Spree is a piece of removal for things like chalices and stuff that we can fetch out of the board. Because this is Replicate, it means the Replicate copies go through a chalice if there's a chalice on one. Got a Grapeshot, similar to Tendrils, but it can also pick off some little guys, gets around Gaddock Teague. Because sometimes this will be like a ritual we can have in the sideboard, sometimes also a draw spell. Empty the Warrens and Elemental Eruption to make some creatures. Reforge the Soul as another way of drawing a bunch of cards. And then we've got another wheel. So we've got wheels. We've got ways of finding wheels. We've got lots of mana. We're just going to jam pretty hard. I'm suspecting this is going to be quite a quick league to record. So strap in, like and subscribe, and let's get wheeling with Killabee's Legacy Challenge winning deck of glorious nonsense. Let's go. Alright, we're on the play. We don't actually have a wheel this time around. We've got a defense grid, which can certainly be a useful thing to slap down nice and early. I think we're on a Saga game plan for a little bit if we keep this hand. That's not really what we came here to do, but Saga is pretty powerful when we get it running on turn 2. Alright, I think we're going to go like this. So there's a pretty successful history of Urza, Saga, and Storm decks. So the classic one being Mono Black Saga Storm, but there is like the Mono Blue Storm deck that runs Sagas as well. And there's a Black Blue build. Plenty of good, because we're playing a bunch. There's plenty of good uses for an Urza Saga in a deck like this because it tutors for one of our best cards in Lion's Eye Diamond. It also gives us a nice backup win condition through some of the hate. So makes a lot of sense here. And we're going to have so many artifacts that we should be able to pump out some very aggressive constructs that can win in 1 or 2 hits. Prismatic Vista. So we're probably looking at some sort of blue-white control deck would be my guess, but it could be some kind of Omnitel list too. Wheel of Misfortune. That's not what I'm about right now. I think I'm cool just to play... I don't think I want to play out the Lotus Petal. We'll save it for a little bit of Storm, because we do have a Grapeshot, so it might be useful to ping off something if our opponent's got some weird main deck thing we need to answer. There's Plains. Our opponent is cracking their Prismatic Vista. This means we can win any bidding wars on the Wheel of Misfortune here. A Dress Down. Okay. So this will stop us making constructs. That's a-okay with me. We're going to be doing some different approach to this game now. So we have the mana to play the Wheel of Misfortune anyway, so we probably want the Lion's Eye Diamond. We'll play out our Lotus Petal. We'll exile a Simian Spirit Guide. We'll cast this Wheel of Misfortune. I'm going to crack this Lion's Eye Diamond. I think we want... We've already got red here, but red is our main colour. If we need blue, we can get off of this. I think we're just going to crack this for triple red here, because we're quite happy to use this mana, I think. So we can bid any amount of life. I'm going to bid 19 life here, because we know that's going to be enough. Oh, not 190, please. That would be the wrong number. So our opponent can't bid 19 life, so we will win this one, and we'll go to 1 here. I'm planning on winning this turn. Alright, this looks like it should probably get us there. We don't get to use our Noxious Revival now, but we've kind of gone past the need to do that. Right, we've got a Rite of Flame here. Now, we can do an Echo of Eons here. We can Burning Wish. What's in our sideboard here is going to be useful for us here. So we've got Storm 5. This will be 6. We can cast this for 7. This will be 8. So that's still not enough to lethal our opponent out just yet. Our opponent's got 7 cards in hand, so we could Burning Wish for Jeska's Will and add loads of mana. That seems pretty reasonable. Let's do that. I would like 1 red mana for each card in target opponent's hand. Okay, so we have a lot of mana. So we can cast this Reforge the Soul right now. We could Noxious Revival something on top. So we've got 7... yes, if we... Alright, so we'll just Noxious Revival this Lion's Eye Diamond on top. Then when we cast Reforge, we'll draw into it, because this doesn't shuffle in. That allows us to go with the wheel again if we need to. Let's play this out. So now we have plenty of damage. So we can play this one out. Whole priority, cast this. Crack this for black. Say yes to this. Go and get the Tendrils of Agony. Cast Tendrils of Agony, tag on our opponent. And we get to burn them out for a whole bunch. Alright. That's pretty good. Turn 3 protective with a defense grid. Our opponent looks like they're on a blue-white control shell. So we definitely want this other defense grid in. I think that's a given. Oh, I didn't also mention the Dream Salvage in the thing. So equal number of cards target opponent discarded. So if we do some amount of Reforge the Soul, Dream Salvage can be like 1 mana draw 7. This is pretty cool. So we need to cut a card here. I think our opponent's going to have... I think they're going to have Lavinia and Counter Magic. So I don't think we want to bring in the Wear and Tear. So we get to trim 1 thing here to fit in this defense grid. And what is that 1 card supposed to be? Like Jeska's Will is going to be pretty good here. Our opponent's going to have a lot of mana a lot of the time. So I don't think that's the thing we trim. Kind of tempted to trim a Chrome Mox. We don't want to be imprinting cards if we can avoid it sometimes. It can make some clunky starting hands. Our opponent's probably running things like Prismatic Ending somewhere in their deck. So what does this hand do? We play this. We play this. We don't do anything else. I think we can keep this one. Yeah, this hand does some stuff, doesn't it? We have the Echo plan here. I don't think we need the Burning Wish right now. So we've got Gamble for Echo of Eons, then we can discard it via the Lion's Eye Diamond. But our opponent is a blue deck, so that is a thing they might be able to counterspell. So we might want to find some additional ways of manipulating our deck. Okay, if we find another land, we can... Actually, we can do it now, but Intervention Pact is not a great thing if it doesn't resolve. Yeah, maybe that's a little bit sketchy and that's something that comes out. Alright, I think we play out this Lion's Eye Diamond. Play out this Lotus Petal. We go for Rite of Flame here. If this resolves, we can do a big wheel. If this doesn't work, we then gamble into Echo next turn. So we've got like a second combo locked and loaded. A Hydro Blast. Sure. But we wanted to play out our Lion's Eye Diamond in case that wheel resolved. So now we're looking to gamble and do some stuff. So you can see the problem here. If we'd have Intervention Pact here to try and force that through, it's not going to go well for us. So maybe the Intervention Pact is what goes in this matchup because we don't need to worry about our life being low because our opponent's not going to be putting pressure on us. See, that is a real hit. That is not a nice thing for our opponent to have done. I did mention that that is a danger that we have to worry about. I don't think we're playing out City of Traitors. And I don't think we're gambling because we don't know what we need. And more cards in hand makes our gamble better. We're looking for Lion's Eye Diamond or Echo of Eons so we can gamble for that. For the other half. Right, they got Brainstorm and then shuffling their cards away. Lots of basics over there. And another Ponder. Like cantripping is better for us than them playing something like a Lavinia, which becomes a real problem. Chrome Mox. We can gamble something straight into graveyard, but that doesn't actually help us out here. So I think we just have to pass the turn again. Because we can put this Intervention Pact into the Chrome Mox. And we can be guaranteed to put whatever we gamble for into the graveyard if we do that. What's our opponent got here? It's just going to be a little 4th Eolingus. A Narset Part of Veils. Yikes. That is a problem, isn't it? Our deck built around drawing multiple cards feels like it might struggle against the thing that stops us doing that. Right, we're supposed to try and win before our opponent gets stuff like that online as a general rule. So I think we are probably going to game 3 shortly. Another Chrome Mox. We do still have Grapeshot in our deck. We can use that to ping down the Narset when the time is right. But we have to take a risk with our gamble and see if that works. We've also got to get through this Hydroblast. But if our opponent gives us enough time, we can probably mount a comeback. But we need our opponent to not have a win condition. Okay, I'm happy to scoot that one up now. Alright, our opponent's got a lot of counter magic over there. I think I like how we boarded here. There is an argument for bringing in something like Empty the Warrens rather than having it in the sideboard. Maybe we'll try Intervention Pact for an Empty. It's just a nice thing we can have on our opening hand and just go, okay, let's make a bunch of guys. See if we can put them on the back foot. It also helps us pressure Planeswalkers. We need something to do with this. We've got a lot of draw effects, so I think this is acceptable because we do get to play on a defense grid on turn 1. And we have an answer for Lavinia if that's something we need to be concerned with. Our opponent did keep 7 though. So we've got a bunch of wheel effects that we can draw that do stuff. We've got gambles and burning wishes. Right, a Fledstrand cracked from our opponent. Right, they're pondering into their next piece of interaction. We don't need our Chrome Mox to resolve, but it's quite important to have a recurring red source of mana if we have to play multiple turns in this game. Shuffle the library of that Ponder. Again, we don't actually have anything that goes anywhere. Maybe we're supposed to mulligan more thoroughly for a payoff. I think a hand that can deal with Lavinia and at least force a counterspell out on something non-relevant, which was what the defense grid did. Yep, that stops us doing Echo of Eons, which is only part of our plan, so we can beat this. Alright, a defense grid, you say? I don't mind having one of those in play. And a Force of Will. Alright. The big dragon, the Runehorn Hellkite, whatever it's called, that's an activated ability, so it doesn't care about Grafdigger's Cage, it goes right through it. Okay, back over to us. And Urza's Saga, that's a very awkward one, isn't it? But this does give us a chance to actually win the game, so I think this is acceptable to play this one out. I don't really want a prismatic ending to ruin our Chrome Mox, so I think we're just going to pass here. And then the plan is next turn we can play out a Chrome Mox and make a construct, and at least be threatening our opponent's life total in some way, and having something to challenge some planeswalkers if that's what they pivot to. Mana isn't really the issue right now. Ponder. Needs some business. Right, 2 cards in our opponent's hand. They didn't shuffle off that Ponder. A gamble. Do we wait one more turn and try and get this extra juice off of the Saga? That seems like a good idea to me. Right, let's have another turn. I was not expecting to be passing turn this much. I thought we'd be winning the game or losing the game in the first couple of turns of the game. If our opponent plays another land, they have hard cast Force of Will available as an option. Although we have gone through 2 Force of Will so far. Force of Negation hard cast is available to them. Alright, let's tap this. We can get a Lion's Eye Diamond, and that way we can put the Hellkite into play, into the graveyard, and that seems quite strong. I think we'll do that. Let's play a Chrome Mox. I think we're imprinting the Grapeshot here. We want lots of mana. So we'll cast a Rite of Flame. Plays Lotus Petal. Cast a Rite of Flame. Exile this. Exile this. Cast this. Let's get the dragon. Right, we are going to draw our opponent into a new hand of cards, which comes with its own problems for sure. Right, we've got a Mox Opal. Feels like our opponent has some counter magic over there. So Lion's Eye Diamond. Let's cast his Rite of Flame. If we cast this, we go down to 3 mana, but we can still Reforge the Soul afterwards with 1 floating. I think that's for the best. I'm not expecting this to resolve. We could have played our Chrome Mox first, since we're going to put the Echo under it, most likely anyway. Right, there is a Brainstorm over there. We shields down or not, opponent. I didn't like those cards. They got another Brainstorm to fire off. Have a Force of Will. That was expected. Let's cast this Chrome Mox. Let's put this Echo of Eons underneath it. And we'll tap this and this. Let's cast Reforge the Soul here. Crack this for triple red. Keep things going. Alright, we've got some more cards. We can play out this as a Saga. Our opponent's got 7 cards in hand. If we cast Defense Grid, we can then cast the Jeska's Will. Okay. Let's go for this. Our opponent might have a counter spell and they're going to pay the 3 mana here. Force of Negation. Sure. Alright, we've still got a reasonable amount of gas in the tank for next turn. And we've got this Defense Grid. So if our opponent spends a lot of time pondering to find some answers, they won't be able to deploy those answers. Unless they're... Oh, is this a Meltdown? It feels like a Meltdown. They cancelled and went back in for another one. Right, that's a lot of our board gone. But we can just hopefully wheel our way back into this game again. They've taken out their own Graphics Cage though, which is pretty important. Okay. As a Saga ticks up, we'll play another as a Saga. We don't have any starting red mana yet, which is the main problem. But we're about to do Echo of Eons and wheel again. A Doorkeeper Thrall. Is our opponent... I assume this is just a hate piece. Rather than... Or just something that can actually apply some pressure early on. Even though it's not a lot of pressure, it can affect the amount we can pay. Right, so they are going to put a Force of Will on top of their library. Hardly a surprise there. Are they going to be able to draw that card this turn? They are. So the Narset is almost certainly putting this Force of Will into their hand. There it is. Alright. Horses time. So now our opponent's got a clock. And we know the next spell we cast is not resolving. So we need, like, to draw an LED or a piece of red mana here. That's not the one, is it? Add some mana here. Do we get Chrome Mox? That way we can imprint... Oh wait, no, this doesn't trigger because of the Doorkeeper Thrall, does it? Whoops. I forgot this is artifacts and creatures. My bad. Okay, we get to do nothing here. We can't do any Echo of Eons because of the Narset. What you like to find off your next 4 cards. They revealed a Lorien revealed. It's very revealed. Right, so they've gassed back up in a big way. I'm pretty sure we're done for. That Chrome Mox play has hurt us quite a bit. We could have got something like a Lion's Eye Diamond. A Lotus Petal. That'll give us some starting red mana to work with. But we are under the gun here because we need to resolve a Grapeshot. And I don't know how we're supposed to do that. Rest in peace. Yeah, our opponent's got a lot of pieces that aren't very peaceful for us. Including rest in peace. Many pieces in that sentence. Alright. Let's draw a card and scoop the game, I think. I don't think we're realistically winning this one. Alright, let's just go again. Our opponent's got full grip there. They can have it. They want it more than us, I guess. Alright, let's go to round 2 and see if we can string things together a little better. Well, this is an intriguing hand, isn't it? We can't actually do anything with this Reforge the Soul and all of these lines like diamonds. We don't go anywhere. I think we need to mulligan something that does go somewhere. So this Rite of Flame, 3 mana, then what? Nothing. This feels a little more stable. So we have Urza Saga into maybe Defense Grid if we want it. And then we can just make some Urza Saga constructs. Although I'd like the Reforge the Soul here. So this is 1 mana, 2 mana, 3, 4, 5. So we could... No, we don't have... I guess mana is really abundant thing in our deck. So maybe we just ship these and just keep a bunch of mana and play on it like this. Like the Urza Saga will eventually give us an additional mana via a Lotus Petal. And any mana we draw, which is the most abundant thing in our deck, gets us there as well. Ooh, a non-blue land. This is exciting. Let's see if they mill off a blue card. They did not mill off a blue card. They did not mill off any card. So Thoughtseize and things might be in our future. I think I'm going to play out the Lotus Petal because I don't want to have to discard it. This also gives us the ability to use Saga and Simian Spirit Guide to Miracle or Reforge the Soul. A Coiling Oracle. We're playing against the Lurin. Nice. Haven't seen Lurin for a hot minute. It feels pretty bad in the Orcish Bowmaster world and the Scam world. Okay. So there might be some counter spells over there we're going to have to watch out for. So we can float mana over this. Put in a Chrome Mox. Imprint this Intervention Pact. Rite of Flame. This is 3 mana, 4 mana, 5 mana. I would very much like to Reforge the Soul here. That is not the most exciting thing I've ever seen. I think we play out this defense grid. And then we put something on top of our library. But what are we putting on top of our library? If we Noxious Revival... We have to decide now because of our defense grid. So if we Noxious Revival and put the Rite of Flame on top, that gives us 2 mana, 3, 4, 5 mana. That's not really enough to do anything. We could put Reforge the Soul on top and just Miracle it. I think that's pretty acceptable. That's one of the things that we said we wanted to do. So let's try it out. So we use our Spirit Guide to pay for that. Intervention Pact and the Spirit Guide will pay for the Miracle on that. We will lose a Rite of Flame to do this. But we get to draw 7. And it turns on things like Dream Salvage, which might be pretty cool for us. Orcish Bowmasters, that feels very problematic. I very much like that Grapeshot now. Another Orcish Bowmasters. How do we beat this? I don't know if we can. With the Grapeshot being where it is, I think I'm just going to concede. Yeah, that feels problematic. So, if they're Alluring, I don't think we want to be hitting their Alluring. We're supposed to be the aggro. We just want to be doing our aggro thing. I think we don't want the Intervention Pact because our opponent is playing blue mana. And they just counter that, so it becomes really awkward trying to do things with it. So I think we do something like this. There is an argument for a big Empty the Warrens. I did board it in last time, and I don't hate it as a thing that we have access to. It does come at the cost of one other card. What is that other card? Maybe it's a Reforge the Soul? Like, if Reforge the Soul is in our opener, that is an awkward one. This hand is gamble into LED, hope that we keep it in our hand. Yeah. You don't play this deck to be cowardly, that's for sure. And we want to cast this now, so we've got more cards in hand. Okay, we'll exile this. Play this. Crack this for blue. Cast this Echo. Oh, I meant to leave one red, not one blue. That was a misclick. Okay, our hand doesn't actually go anywhere else. But we've made our opponent mulligan. So there is that. If our opponent's got Thoughtseize, maybe we're supposed to play out this Lines like Diamond, but because we have Empty the Warrens, it does incentivize us to keep things that can help us generate Storm in a short term, rather than playing out to do like multiple wheels and draw through lots of our deck. If we have like a quick, short way to make a bunch of guys, that can be a very potent thing. Noxious Revival, you say? Got an Ancient Tomb. What's in our sideboard here? We've got an Echo. Are we just straight up casting that? Or do you want to get this defense grid down first? We've got a turn of protection. I like the protection here. I'm going to be a little bit cowardly and play this defense grid, and then next turn we're going to go. Because our opponent needs to get to 4 mana to play their combo. Yep, there's the Force of Will. So at the very least we baited that out. And next turn we can do all that jazz. A Brainstorm. There is an argument to just Noxious Revivaling this defense grid back and trying with that. The only problem is, if our opponent can combo, they'll be able to do it next turn. So I think we have to go on our next turn. Another Hierarch. I don't know what deck we'd be running Coiling Oracle other than Allurin. Mox Opal. Play Mox Opal. Let's play Lion's Eye Diamond. Let's cast a Burning Wish. Our opponent is F6'd over there. So I think this is just Echo of Eons and Wheel again. So let's flash this back. So a fresh grip. Wheeling my opponent, who is a counterspell deck, doesn't feel amazing to me. So we need to play this out to get Metalcraft. Then we can cast Birgi. We need to tap the Mox Opal first. Then we can crack this and wheel again. This will add red to our pool. Alright, they've got a Force of Will here. That's clearly not what we wanted to see. This game feels very difficult against blue decks when we don't have a defense grid in play. And because we have to wheel all the time, it means our opponent is just... I'm not blocking here. Our opponent's clearly got Bowmasters. They wouldn't make that attack otherwise. But, yeah, it feels like wheeling without a defense grid kind of just gets us stuck a lot. And our opponent has lots of windows to interact with what we're doing because we have these wheels that we're playing. Jeska's Will. If we cast this, we end up with 1 mana. I think we're just going to pass. We only have 1. If we draw the 3 cards, we end up with 1 mana from the Birgi. And then we have to make sure that those 3 cards do something this turn. It's not like the Ren's Resolve type cards where you get them until your next end step. Alright, our opponent's attacking. Allurin. We may just be dead here. They can combo off at instant speed. Such is the nature of Allurin. Right, let's exile some cards from the top of our library. I hope it goes well for us. Another Jeska's Will. So we play this one out. That gets us some mana. Chrome Mox. This gives us some mana when we play it. And it also gives us Metalcraft. This allows us to cast Jeska's Will. Is there anything in our sideboard that helps us out here? From this situation? I don't believe there is. I think we have to just go and cast this Jeska's Will. And draw some more cards. Urza's Saga. Does that help? It's a land. It is mana. So we have 1 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana, 4 mana. So we go down to 2 mana. Sorry, yeah, 4 mana. We go down to 2 mana, and then up to 3 mana. So we have a 3 mana play here, which is probably just going to be the wheel. Problem with the wheel is our opponent can bid more life than us, which I'm not a particularly big fan of. We could lock and load and try and get some cards that way. That's reasonable. So 1 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana. Cast this for blue and crack this. Let's try and draw some cards. Our opponent's going to flash in a Bowmaster and kill our Birgi with it. There it is. Oh, they're going straight to the face. Okay. Does this kill us? I don't think it does. No, because we played a bunch of artifacts. Makes this Noxious Revival very difficult to cast, though. We can pay 2 life here to gain 1 mana. That takes us up to 2 mana. We play this for 3. Then we basically die here. Yeah, we're done. Our goose, it has been cooked. Yeah, really struggling to play this deck against blue decks. I know this deck is not the easiest thing in the world to play, and Killabee's been working on it for a long time, and they seem to be the person that gets the wins with it and not really anyone else. And I'm not really great at playing sort of Storm-style decks either. So let's go to round 3 and see if we can find a non-blue deck to beat up on. Alright, we're on the play. We can try and do the gamble line. I'll give it a whirl. And because we're kind of desperate for the LED here, we probably just Chrome Mox, imprint the gamble, then fire off the other gamble, and then hopefully be left with some sort of Lotus Petal, Rite of Flame type stuff to add some more mana. I think because we need... Is there a way we can do this differently? So if we go this, imprint this, make 2 mana, make 3 mana, -1 this. No. I guess we could Jeska's Will. 1 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana. Jeska's Will. Then we don't have the blue mana we need. Alright, no, we're just going to do the original line I thought of. Chrome Mox. Do we print the Jeska's Will? That way we have a chance to go again next turn. I like that. I like that play. Let's do that. Cast a Gamble. Get Lion's Eye Diamond. Oh, we discarded the Echo of Eons. Alright, that is very much coming up Millhouse for us right there. So, we cast this Rite of Flame. Our opponent is F6 over there. We play this Lion's Eye Diamond. What would we want to do with another Gamble in this situation? The only thing it's going to do is get an Echo. That's not really worth it. So we're just going to fire this off now, using our blue mana, keeping our red mana open. Okay, Rite of Flame. This gives us 3 mana. We can play this. Play 3 life. Play this. We can cast Birgi, I think, here. We're going to be getting some amount of mana. Our opponent is definitely F6 to it. We'll yield to that. Cast his Rite of Flame. Cast his Intervention Pact. This also adds mana. Nice little ritual. Oh, have we made a mistake here? Oh, okay. You have to cast that in response, right? I'm sure it... Alright, we'll see. Let's see if I've made a horrible mistake here. Okay, yeah, I did make the mistake with the Intervention Pact. I thought because it didn't target. We had this game absolutely in the bag. Next time sorcerer choice will deal damage to you this turn. I thought this was just a bubble that you got. You didn't have to choose the source. Yeah, that's just my bad. We're supposed to play this, hold priority, and then do the Intervention Pact, and we just had this game. Oh dear. Well, our opponent didn't have any spells over there. And they were F6 even after wheeling, so I'm not going to keep these defense grids. I'm going to bring in Haywire Mite. I'm going to bring in Empty the Warrens as well, I think. And we're going to run like this. Well, there's a learning experience for everyone right there, including myself. Turn 1 Birgi, then what? I think this hand is acceptable though. I think we keep this. It's a touch slower than I would necessarily want, but we can play this Haywire Mite. Yeah, so I thought it would work the same way as something like a Thought Lash, where it's just the next instance of damage, but you have to have a source you're choosing, and I couldn't choose the spell because it wasn't on the stack. But we'll chalk that one up for the deck, but not for me. Let's see how we go. This Haywire Mite will not be able to remove some kind of Null Rod because we're relying on the Lotus Petal for green, and Haywire Mite itself is an artifact. But it can stop things like Deafening Silence. It can stop Damping Sphere, that sort of jam. Alright, it looks to me like our opponent might be on some sort of lands or lands adjacent strategy, because we've got Mox Diamond, and that certainly cues with our opponent passing the turn all the time. We don't want to see a Sphere of Resistance. We do have an answer to Sphere of Resistance, though. We did not have a Sphere of Resistance. We can use this to blow up an Urza Saga if that's what we want to do. What would we do with a Gamble here? We play this, and this is 2 mana. This is 3 mana. We gamble for nothing. Or we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Play Horn of Harnfell, and then try and use that to double up our cards. I think we're definitely playing out our Lotus Petal. I think that's a given. I don't think we're going this turn either. I think we go the turn before the Urza Saga pops. So we'll try and go next turn. This could be an additional mana next turn for something like Birgi, if that's in play. But I think having the Lotus Petal in play so that we can pop a Haywire Mite when the time is right makes a lot of sense. Now that we've got a grip of what our opponent's up to over there. I'm not expecting any Spirit Guides from our opponent in what looks to be a dedicated land strategy. There's no point just trying to fire this Haywire Mite on the Urza Saga because they might just crop rotate it away, and then we're down significant resources to do that. Chipping 1 life off our opponent means that we can definitely win the first Wheel of Misfortune. Force of Vigor, you say? Don't like this one very much. I'm going to hit the Mox Diamond, I think. Because they can crop rotate here, but they can't crop rotate away a Mox Diamond. And that is their green source. They do have the Riftstone Portal as well, to be fair. So they can get green mana in other ways. By just having any lands, really. But I think if we hit the Urza Saga, it just gets crop rotated away. So our opponent didn't have anything else in their hand. Like if they're not playing Loam or whatever on turn 2, oh dear. A Thespian stage. Deafening Silence. Alright, that's pretty savage. I think we're just going to be getting beaten up on in a brutal fashion this entire league. On the plus side, we're learning. We're learning things. A Runehorn Hellkite. Well, given the situation we're in, I'm going to cast Birgi. We can cast it off of this Chrome Mox. instead of the Spirit Guide. Maybe we're just going to try and beat down with Birgi and maybe even a Runehorn Hellkite. That is the life we're trying to lead. And I'm not feeling happy about it. Alright, this feels like the Urza Saga is about to get crop rotated away with the trigger on the stack. So they're going to get their tutor and replace it with something else. Or they might just be floating mana because they're not making any constructs anyway. Pithing Needle on Lion's Eye Diamond. Okay, well that's good because that doesn't actually work on Lion's Eye Diamond. But they might just be in a situation where they want us to know that it doesn't. Okay, so now they're just going to make a 2020. How do we beat a 2020? The answer is we don't. Wheel of Misfortune. Alright. So this one we lost on our own accord. So the first game we should have won. This one we're losing, but then we get to be on the play for a game 3. And then maybe we get to win that way. Although we're on the play for this one, it still didn't do us any good either. Yeah, I'm really struggling to play this deck, and I think it shows. But we're learning. Hopefully we can string a win together. 2 more rounds to go. Our hand has no starting red mana, which feels like an issue. I think we need to be more aggressive with our mulligans than I have been so far. Alright, we've got a wheel. Let's wheel our opponent. One of these cards has got to go. If we're trying to do stuff on turn 1, then we probably don't need the city. Alright. Uh-oh, we getting thought seized? Lotus Petal. Oh, okay, we're going to be jamming at each other a bunch. We might just be dead on turn 1. Oh, Passageway Sit. That's not what I was expecting. Okay, so we're sort of like mono-black initiative, perhaps? Or it could be black-white still. We'll find out maybe with the secret entrance. A swamp. Alright, so it probably is mono-black. Interesting. There's a mountain. There's a Lotus Petal. Our opponent's got 4 cards in hand, so this will net us mana. So we can Rite of Flame. We can Rite of Flame. We can Jeska's Will here. This will net us 1 mana from what we cast. Then we cast this wheel. And we need to pay 19 life here to guarantee drawing 7. Alright. Let's go to 19. Let's put it to 1. Okay. So now we just lose because we don't get to wheel because we both had the lowest. So now I lose. Because we're on 1. Right, that card does not seem great to me. I'm not really sure when we're building a deck around this one. I'm confused. Okay. Haywire Mite. Wear and Tear. Empty the Warrens. I think that's what we're doing here. Maybe we board in the Grapeshot so we can deal with Bowmasters, but Burning Wish also gets it. That gives us more copies of it. Yikes. Okay. What are we up to with this hand? Doesn't really do a lot. I think we can do better. Okay. So this is a lot of mana. Keep this. I guess we get rid of the City of Traitors. We don't want our opponents to put a lane iron. They did not put a lane iron. Okay, that's good. Play this. Get this Lotus Petal out. Cast this. We're going to make a lot of Rite of Flame mana. This is 7 mana. 6, 5. So 7, 8, 9. So we crack this. That's 7 mana in our pool. So that means we're looking at Elemental Eruption here. I don't want to try and draw 7. I've been burned a few times. I don't think our opponent's going to be able to beat a load of dragons. Alright. We got a game. I guess we go again, but our opponent's on the play, and that doesn't bode well for us. Alright. Alright. I believe this one can get us where we need to go. Dream Salvage, not looking great. But we've got Echo, LED, with a little bit of extra mana. We can imprint like Wheel of Misfortune and get 2 red floating after our wheel. But this obviously relies on our opponent not having Leyline and not Thought Seizing our hand. So Thought Seize and take the LED. We're going to be on a very slow plan. Ancient Tomb. Lotus Petal. We're going to see another big monster on turn 1. Dark Ritual. Just going to be a grief. Null Rod. And Damping Sphere. I don't think we can beat both of these, right? Well, that's a start. So we've got Rite of Flame that we can cast, which gets us sort of into this Wheel of Misfortune, but the Damping Sphere is going to be tough. Alright, we'll play this one out. Yikes. Yeah, we don't really have a way to beat this. Yeah, our opponent just has, like, I think we can beat one of these permanents. Of these 3 permanents, but we certainly can't beat all 3, and I don't think we can beat 2 of them. Yikes. Okay, we're already into the final round now. we've managed to win 2 games across 4 matches, so not great. And we're trying to dodge the reverse trophy. This does not feel great to me. Let's see if we can get something going. Okay, I don't think this is a keepable hand, so we're going to mulligan this one. We want to get that win. 1 win, please. What does this do? We imprint this. We have this. We don't go anywhere. Nope, let's keep mulliganing. Ancient Tomb makes this Wheel of Misfortune feel very bad. Nope, I think we have to mulligan again. Okay, an Urza Saga game. I can play Urza Saga. I know how that game works. It's not really what the people want to see, though, is it? But I think we keep this one. So 3 of these cards have got to go. So I think it's like this one. No, if we put this into... we get rid of this one and this one. Are we getting rid of a mana source? Like, how much do I want this defense grid? I do want this defense grid a lot. I think I'm going to put this mountain away. If we draw any mana, we get to do our thing. We've got 2 draw steps to find mana, which is the most abundant thing in our deck. I don't mind cracking a Lotus Petal to get a construct. Oh, our opponent's doing combo stuff too. Okay. It doesn't seem amazing. Okay, our opponent is playing a defense grid too. I kind of don't want to play my defense grid now. Embry. Sure. And this can get back the Lotus Petal. There's a Sword of the Meek. There's a One Ring over there. Yikes. Okay, so we're probably going to lose this one to the One Ring. There's no way we can get up to the amount of mana we need for Wheel of Misfortune. Gamble doesn't get us anything here. I think we just play the Urza Saga and pass. And hope that we can get there. But we can't storm our opponent out with the One Ring trigger on them. So that's a bit of an issue for us. If they find a second One Ring, then we can never win. Because they can just loop them. Oh, we are... Okay, there's 2 One Rings there. Our opponent shouldn't be able to lose this game. The only way they can lose this game is if they make a mistake and don't know what we're doing. So I think we might have a chance next turn. I don't really want to play his defense grids because they've already got one. Okay, we're going to pass and hope they tap their One Ring and don't replace it. And then we also get to have a turn. And then we have to try and find some mana and string together a Wheel of Misfortune. I have thoroughly... Like, we did make a mistake with an Intervention Pact against this. That is a thing that definitely happened. But we've cast it and it's not been able to do anything before. I just don't... It just seems a bit risky, this one, as a card. Alright, they're playing the Grim Monolith, not the other One Ring. This might be our chance to shine here. Because we get to gamble and Echo of Eons here. Ooh, that's quite a tasty one, isn't it? Our opponent... They have 3 mana for this Grim Monolith, which is a little bit annoying. If we get a Lion's Eye Diamond, play a Chrome Mox out. We imprint this Wheel of Misfortune. Play this Lion's Eye Diamond. Cast this Gamble. Get this Echo. Get this for blue. Get this for red, so we got lots of starting mana to work with. So if we pace things out, we can't do a particularly scary Grapeshot. But we can gamble. What are we gambling for? Let's have a look. If we get a wheel, we can fire off a wheel and draw 7 for only 3 mana. That's a pretty good rate. I think that's the best thing we have available, and we hope that we... This one, actually, how many cards has our opponent discarded? We've only done 1 Echo. And it's shuffled in, isn't it? It's not discarded. So the Dream Salvage doesn't do anything here. If we get Birgi, that costs 5 to deploy. But we do get to pitch off these blank cards here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're left with 1 mana, and we end up with 2, 4, 6 cards. But then all of our other cards become better. Is that better than drawing 7? It's close. I think we get the Birgi here. And then we cast Harnfell. 3, 4, 5. Yes, we cast Harnfell. Alright, so then we discard this defense grid. Oh! Okay. Let's discard this Intervention Pact. I think we want to cast this Burning Wish. And what is a useful thing for us here? Is it just going to be this? It's probably just the wheel here. We have the mana to cast it, so sure. Alright, opponent, enjoy your fresh 7 plus 3 more from the One Ring. I think we're going to die. But we did some things. Transmute Artifact. This is going to get Coveted Jewel, I imagine. Oh, no, Paradox Engine. Okay. Soul Guide Lantern. It's not too much of a worry for us. A Defense Grid. Okay, we don't care about Defense Grid. But that just untaps and generates the mana, so. Now our opponent gets to draw their entire deck. I think we can call that a day. It's a tough one. If our opponent's running Defense Grids, I don't want them. Do I want something like Shattering Spree in the main deck? I don't think we do. I think we just take this empty, like we've been doing. I just feel completely out of my depth with this deck. And it just doesn't feel like it does enough to me. Like, we've got things like Reforge the Soul and all sorts of problems stemming from that. No red mana, but if we find red mana, we can put Harrenfell into play. We have Wear. 2 artifacts does some stuff. Oh, I think we can do better. See, the problem is, this card doesn't do anything here, right? We name 19. Our opponent names 19. Nothing happens. Because if the lowest number is tied, nobody discards a hand. So if you both bid the same number, we'd have to rely on our opponent to make a mistake. And it's just not good enough. Okay. We can keep this and maybe get lucky. 3 cards got to go. So this one goes... we're not going to have enough mana though, are we? Is the problem. This one goes... Actually, that's not true. We will have enough mana. Alright. It's bad, but it's what we've got. What are we doing? Yeah, our deck just doesn't operate great right now. The gamble... But there's no point gambling for stuff when they have a ley line right now. It's an LED. There's an Emery. I think we can probably pack it up next turn. I'm just going to get one ring up and running. How do we even make an attempt to play this game with what we've got going on? 1 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana. Gamble doesn't get us anywhere. I guess we'll give it one more turn. But I think we're just done. It just doesn't feel like the deck does anything. Certainly not underneath things like Leyline or when we're on a multi-4. Yep, they get the 1 ring. That's usually enough to win a game. Kind of wish we had 1 ring stuff than some of these wheels, maybe. I don't know. If we'd have played out Lotus Petal, we would have been able to miracle this. Maybe that's a line I should have been playing around. Let's cast a gamble. Alright, we actually get to cast our gamble. Jeska's Will might draw us a lot of cards, but it might not. Wheel of Misfortune can draw us 7 next turn. Alright. Let's try drawing 7 next turn. Our opponent can chip us down to 1, but we'll still have more life than them. Yeah, maybe we could have played this differently and at least been live to the possibility of a draw 7 off the top with a miracle. Definitely a bit of experience with the deck coming back to bite me there. I feel I'm checked out of this one a little bit already. Just feel so far behind. There's Paradox Engine. There's Grim Monolith. So they have infinite mana pretty much. If we've got a draw engine, like another copy of the 1 ring, yeah, there's no way we win this. Is that true? They need to be able to untap this twice and then we lose. Which they're going to keep the old 1 ring, I would imagine here. But if they're doing that, it means they don't have easy ways of drawing a bunch of cards, untapping all their permanents in their hand. Oh no, they have the loop here, don't they? They can just cast it over and over again. Alright. Yep, we are just dead. Yeah, this is definitely one of the worst leagues I've ever played of Magic the Gathering. It felt like we didn't really do an awful lot, so let's talk about this deck. Main conclusion from playing this is that Killabee is an absolute combo savant to be able to play this deck and win a challenge. It felt like we were doing nothing the whole time, and obviously they've put in so much effort tuning this deck, and they know exactly what every little piece does, how to work against all the decks in the format, which hands are statistically likely to get there, which aren't, in terms of like wheeling and whatever, and like where you can keep a hand with a bunch of mana and draw it, how many cards is that, etc. But for me, this deck just felt like unplayable with my skill set of Magic the Gathering. And there's a few reasons for that I think is important to look at. So Wheel of Misfortune. If you have the same life total as your opponent, this card does nothing. Unless you have the one of Intervention Pact. That is a very, very sketchy, unreliable card in my opinion. And we are playing an Ancient Tomb and 2 Shatterskull Smashings on our deck. So it's quite possible we have less life than our opponent on the first turn of the game, even if we're going first. And if our opponent knows what they're doing, we just can't win with this card. So this is a blank piece of cardboard sometimes. Reforge the Soul. This is a 5 mana wheel, which is a lot of mana. Now, we did get up to that sort of mana sometimes. That wasn't completely wild. But when we were working on low resources, like let's say if we got picked apart by scam, or we had some things countered, or whatever, or we had to mulligan because our hand was like awful, then this is a little bit tricky to get up to. And the miracle only works if it's the first card you draw for the turn. So when we're doing all our draw chains, this just becomes a 5-drop in hand. It just feels tough to do anything with it, to be honest. So that's kind of my big initial complaint with this deck, is that this selection stuff is really difficult. Intervention Pact, we made a mistake with this once because I thought it worked more like Thought Lash Prevention, where you just have a bubble of prevention, but that's not the case. Nevertheless, this card feels really dicey to play against any blue decks, right? So if you're casting Wheel of Misfortune, then you fire off his Intervention Pact. They counter the wheel, you lose the game to the Intervention Pact. That seems terrible. We brought it out a fair amount. It's nice when it comes up. Dream Salvage, again, this is a thing that can be nice when it comes up. The one time we saw it this entire league, it was just a card in our hand that did nothing. It didn't really matter. It was just another card that got wheeled away. But if it was, I don't know, more Mox Opals, then we end up with additional mana and we get to play more spells, and that's probably better for us. But like this side of things is fine. You know, gamble, echo, like playing the epic gamble is a very real deck. You know, this sort of stuff. This whole pile here feels really good. It's this pile that is a problem. We have a 6 mana wheel, a 5 mana wheel, and 3 wheels that don't actually wheel us. So some amount of our business spells might not be business spells, and that feels terrifying when you're trying to do some combo stuff. Noxious Revival also feels pretty cute here. We certainly saw what it can do, where you can put like the LED on top, and then when you cast your wheel or whatever, then all of a sudden you've got another LED guaranteed, and that feels pretty reasonable. But there are definitely going to be situations where it comes up and doesn't do anything, and we had that. I think there's obviously a good deck here, and Killabee managed to win a challenge with it, which isn't something you can do by luck. Yeah, you have to get fortunate with some of your matchups or whatever, and some of the draws and things. But Killabee has been putting out leagues with this deck and, you know, doing pretty well with it for a little while. But it just seems incomprehensible and unplayable to people who aren't Killabee. And you get decks like that sometimes. I think some of the early blue-black dredge builds, when Mafus Van Gogh was playing them, I tried playing them and talked to a few other dredge experts, and they weren't particularly impressed either. But it's a case of Mafus is winning loads of stuff with it because they're putting in all the work, and they know so many little things with it. They get so many little extra edges that it sort of tips it over. But this is just not something that I could ever see myself playing or even being able to play. I think the amount of time you need to put into it is a lot to be able to get the returns off it. And I quite like the adage of work smarter, not harder, right? It feels like if you want to do this sort of thing, maybe just go into like more of a traditional epic gamble instead of trying to do these things which feel awkward to me. I'd also say there's a lot of lock pieces in the format right now that can jam us up. So Orcish Bowmasters feels legitimately terrifying to play against. So there are a fair few Storm decks running the Echo of Eons at the moment. For example, the Epic Storm. What they do is they play Veil of Summer. So you can just say, okay, no. And then you can also, once you've done your wheel, you can then, if you've drawn into a Veil, you can then cast it while the triggers go on. So you can sort of wheel in the blind, and if you've got these Veils, then you're more likely to be able to prevent it. But we don't have anything like that. It's just, okay, if they have the Bowmasters, we're in trouble, and we can't do any wheeling. Also, if we're drawing extra cards, wheeling is very difficult for us to do anyway with Wheel of Misfortune because we can't pay more life than our opponent, and that becomes a problem. And then we saw Null Rod was really challenging for us to beat. We don't have a lot of mana. Like in terms of coloured mana sources in our deck, we have 4 that work under a Null Rod. So we basically lose to Null Rod. I guess we do have these 4 Spirit Guides as well, which can help. But if we're trying to like use these to cast 2 mana to cast a Burning Wish, to then go and find a Shattering Spree, and then cast that a couple of times, that's a lot of red mana, and that's just not going to be particularly viable off of this. Like, yeah, we can use the colourless bit with some of these lands, but a lot of the time we weren't even playing 2 lands in an entire match. So I'm not convinced by that one in terms of what we can go and fetch with it. It just seems like we're working so hard with this deck to do something that other decks already do better, and I can't personally understand why you would ever play this over like the Epic Storm or like a more traditional Epic Gamble build or if you want to play the Echo of Eons combo decks, there are easier Echo of Eons combo decks to play, right? As much fun as casting Wheel of Misfortune with Intervention Pact is, if you can actually click the buttons correctly and get your big draw without having to worry about it. As cool as that is, it seems unnecessary. I think there is a new Wheel of Fortune effect coming out in Modern Horizons 3, which might slot nicely into this deck. I can't remember the exact text of it, but it's definitely in the pipeline. And that might be where you want to be here. However, I can't understand the attraction to playing this deck. But what I will say is I'm glad that Killabee is playing this deck and getting results with it. It really speaks volumes to them as a Magic player that they can play this incomprehensible pile of cards and absolutely smash people with it. And yeah, like I said, I'm not a Storm player, so my metrics on playing this is already lower than your average Storm player. But I think this is an absolute wild ride to try and pilot, and it's frankly beyond me. A few other little comments. It did feel like we were struggling to get some permanents out of play, perhaps. Like, how we have to rely on Grapeshot to kill some things, but it feels like we're not a very reliable Grapeshot to kill things sort of deck. I did enjoy Elemental Eruption. I think probably last week, for you lovely people, I played an Elemental Eruption Storm deck with the One Ring, and that deck felt really good. It was a lot simpler, and that's a good example of what I mean by work smarter, not harder. Like, this is requiring you to work a lot to do stuff, right? You know, having to get your Wheel of Misfortunes to work out, getting your mana up to this and that. Whereas the other deck was just like, okay, we either storm off early with a bunch of dragons, or we play the One Ring, draw up a bunch of cards that you can't get through, and then we can smash it down with some protection, with like Force of Will and whatever. And that just seems like a way simpler and harder to disrupt plan in a lot of ways than what this is doing. Like, Leyline and the Void, people are playing a lot more because of how popular Reanimator decks are right now. And then you've got people playing Null Rod effects, which is quite common as well. Orcish Bowmasters. There's so many permanents that are making it difficult to play a deck like this. And I think you need to know the ins and outs of it. And you have to be some kind of savant to play this one. Alright, I think I'm done with this one today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much, Killabee, for winning a challenge with us and making me play this glorious masterpiece of insanity that I cannot get to grips with or even comprehend, really, and why it works. Alright, if you've got thoughts on it, I'd love to know your thoughts on this one. Do you think I'm right? Is this one where you should just be playing something, you know, that just intrinsically hard to disrupt? What is the payoff for playing this as opposed to like the Epic Gamble or the Epic Storm or whatever? I can't see it myself, but I would love to hear your thoughts on that one. Alright. Thank you so much for joining me on this one for this learning experience, shall we say. All right, thank you and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.